right, we're getting ready to kick off the UConn basketball season. Join us talking a little bit about some of the recruits we've got coming in for 2026 and just what we've seen so far as we get ready for the season is Adam Finkelstein. So, Adam, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with this. Let's start with the 2026 class because I know it looking ahead a little bit, but I know UConn fans really excited about what they've got in store. Junior County, first one to commit for 2026. He's got some size, some playmaking, positional versatility. What do you like most about his game?
I think there's a no nonsense quality about his game. As you mentioned, he's a big guard. He's someone who's trended from more of a wing into a legitimate guard. Has some playmaking ability to lean into. Really had a breakout junior season last year at Wasatch and has continued to ascend. There are moments where you still want him to be a little bit more aggressive, but he's so big, he's so strong, he's got the potential to be so physical. And when you look at the backcourts that UConn has had success with, the big guard model, I think he certainly checks that box. He's going to be not only switchable defensively, you're going to be able to line him up at the start of the possession with multiple positions. And I think the versatility is really his calling card. If the shooting continues to trend in the right direction, I would say right now he's a good pull-up shooter and a somewhat inconsistent three-point shooter. But if the pull-up range extends out to three and he adds a little more, I think I used the term if he gets hurlied, like if he adds a little bit more like assertiveness and kind of attack into his game, I think there's still a lot of untapped potential for him.
I know you mentioned moving from like wing to more of a guard guy. Do you see him more of like a combo guard, or does he have it in him to be a lead type guard?
I think I would say right now he's more of a combo, if not a two.
Mhm.
He has not been in a position where he's been a primary ball handler just yet, neither at Wasatch nor in the EYBL. So, but I think down the road, you can see his guard skills evolving, and you can see when he does get on ball reps, which again is not the majority of the time, but he's handling it with increasing comfort. So I think the hope is that he can eventually develop into a big guard with on-off ball versatility. It's trending in that direction, but right now he's more of an off-ball player.
Yeah, it seems like he's going to fit this Hurley system nicely, where he's really focused on getting these bigger guards. You've looked at Tristan Newton, you look at Silas this year. How do you see him just fitting into the system that Dan Hurley wants to run here?
Yeah, as I said, I think the perimeter size and the physicality is really going to be a great fit, especially on the defensive end. That what I like about the pieces that they have, not just with Colbin Landrew, who I'm sure we'll discuss more, but even with Furphy, you've got some common denominators there in terms of like perimeter size, perimeter feel, which is going to allow them to execute the offensive system. And then the defensive versatility that comes with the size. And I think County could be a real standout defensively and help to, that could potentially help to balance out someone like Furphy, who maybe gets to be a defensive neutral, but is probably not going to be a standout. So, I think that County could be a standout on that end. And as I said, I think the shooting is the part that, if he gets to the point where he can really make threes, and I think he's going to make like open standstill shots. I don't know that he's going to be like a guy who runs off, ever going to be a guy who runs off screens like a solo ball,
Yeah.
Cam Spencer, obviously Jordan Hawkins type. I don't think he's that, but can execute within the flow of the offense, can defend multiple positions, can be switchable, and has this no nonsense approach that I think is really going to resonate with the culture of the team and is really going to benefit from kind of like that attacking daily mentality that happens in stores.
You mentioned Colbin Landrew, so it's a nice segue to talking
Yeah.
about the other commit that they've got so far. What part of his game do you like the most?
Again, I think his versatility is his calling card, but he's also got that same perimeter size and strength. Now he's built like more of a wing. I think defensively, certainly you're going to see him match up at that position. But he can initiate like a guard, and he can also really shoot the basketball, especially open catch and shoot threes. I don't think he's quite as consistent on the move yet, but if that ever clicks, it unlocks some higher upsides. So when you add that the offensive versatility to initiate and to make shots. You add the size and just the strength, because he's got a football background and his body type looks like it right now. So all those things, I think, combine to make him really intriguing, especially now that he's just starting to focus on basketball on a full-time basis. He just got invited out to USA Basketball for the first time. I think there's going to be untapped upside. I mentioned the progression of his shooting from a little bit of a standstill shot maker into a movement shooter. Also, when the body continues to transform from a football body into a basketball body, that's going to unlock some higher level outcomes for him too. And again, within the context of everyone here, you've got multiple initiators, multiple players with perimeter size. Everybody's switchable. Everybody's got a high IQ. Landry's shooting is going to balance out County's shooting right now. Talked about how County's defense could balance out Furphy's defense. I think Furphy's another one that's shooting is going to complement the guys. So I think all those pieces really fit together. And that's within the context of a backcourt that if everybody comes back, and obviously Braylon Mullins is on NBA radars and nothing's a guarantee in college basketball, but if Silas Demery, Solo Ball, and Braylon Mullins come back, you've probably got the best returning backcourt in college basketball next year. So there's a level of fit and depth that I think has this backcourt in a really great spot. And in this era of college basketball, have them in a position where they can have some contingency plans if anything doesn't happen according to plan.
In this era of college basketball, it seems like recruiting high school kids has changed completely. It seems like, Coach Hurley's strategy has been to really go get one who kind of fit into the starting lineup. Then you surround him with some other pieces that come off the bench and certainly contribute. How do you feel he's gone about recruiting high school kids in this era?
How do I think he's gone about recruiting,
or how he's doing it at recruiting in this era of college basketball with the mix he's doing with high school kids versus portal and things like that?
Yeah, well, what I'll say about this class in particular is I think they were, and this is no surprise, they made their own evaluations. They brought in, especially at the wing position and the guards, like they brought in a number of top 25, top 30 guys. But at the end of the day, I think they got the two players that they prioritized. That's not necessarily the highest ranked players, but that's a calculus that has to include, if you get the two highest ranked perimeter players, that comes with a correlating revenue investment at this point in time. It comes with a correlating expectation of playing time and in all likelihood NBA draft expectations. So those are all things you have to weigh within the context of who's going to be able to drive winning right away. And I think what you saw this year was Junior County and Colbin Landrew be the two players that UConn thought fit their formula best. They went out and targeted them. They went out and got them. The other thing I would add to that, going back to last spring, is that while they have continued to recruit at elite level and show really just a rare ability to land the players that they ultimately prioritize, one of the things that stood out to me in the preseason was just how smart it was to maybe de-emphasize the depth of the high school ranks and prioritize some of those experienced, let's call them low salary players. You could see that in the Michigan State game. Some of those incoming upperclassmen transfers that maybe UConn fans aren't as familiar with yet, they were able to step right in and hold their own against a team like Michigan State in a way that, maybe a freshman hasn't been able to in years past, even if they're a pretty celebrated recruit. So I think they've really found a nice blend of being able to be strategic with just the right high school guys. Certainly physical maturity seems to be a part of that formula right now, but simultaneously not overinvest in that market and really find a nice balance of being able to land some depth from that transfer portal with those low to mid-major transfer ups that aren't going to win you big headlines, but can really help address your depth and give you just a lot of, as I said, built-in contingency plans and protection against injury over the course of the season.
Yeah, no, I like that point. Just looking at that Michigan State game, you've got Terrace Reed out and Eric Riva gets in a little bit of foul trouble, and now you've got Dwayne Caroma, who came from Lemoyne, coming in and being able to contribute and really compete against the likes of Michigan State. Talking about the exhibition games a little bit, any takeaways you got from what you've seen from this UConn team so far?
That was really my biggest one, to be honest. I thought both the and I'm going to get the names wrong. I thought Dwayne gave him good minutes as the backup five, and then the guard.
Alec
Um,
Alec Millender.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he for him to come in, I just kept thinking, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to any freshman who's been on the program in with the program in years past, but he was, in terms of his ability to give valuable minutes, he was obviously so far ahead of some of the underclassmen we've seen in years
Yeah.
past. That's not to say he's going to be a better player long term, but right now, when it comes to like, hey, who do you want as potentially your third string point guard? I just think that makes so much sense. Beyond that, I thought that to be playing at that level without Terrace and without Braylon was really impressive. I thought Ryba is candidly farther along than I expected. He's really responded to the culture and Coach Hurley's demands. There was that one stretch there where UConn gave up a number of consecutive offensive rebounds, and right away, there was the timeout, and I know that moment has been picked up on, but like that's all good. Like as a UConn fan, I think that's what Ryba needs. Like that is kind of what we were concerned about coming out of high school, where you saw the things with Ryba that we knew he had were size, skill, and offensive feel, right?
Yeah.
The things we questioned were durability, shot blocking, rebounding, and athleticism. So there's clearly a line in the sand, and to Ryba's credit, he's met the standard. And if there's any shrinkage from that standard, there's a clear timeout, and there's a reminder that no, that's not acceptable here. And I think that's why he has exceeded expectations so far, and the offensive stuff is visible as well. So listen, I think you had to come out of that game being very encouraged if you were a UConn fan, especially without Braylon Mullins and Terrace Reed.
Yeah, Michigan State a physical team, so to see what Rybo was able to do against a team like that, I know freshman bigs usually take some more time to develop, but I was certainly impressed with what I saw from him. I know the other guy that's coming in that had people buzzing a little bit was Jacob Furphy. What did you think of? I know not a ton of minutes, but what you saw from him in some of these games?
I think the word on Furphy, and Coach Hurley had even mentioned this. I think you guys had it in one of your interview comments with him and his media availability. Is turnovers were, he commented that he had to take better care of the basketball. Furphy's one of those guys that his best attribute coming in was believed to be his feel for the game. So lots of times young players who are acclimating to a new system, they're going to need a certain amount of runway to be able to do what they do best. And so I think the sooner he can kind of settle into that and find a balance of playing with the freedom that allows him to use his vision, his feel, and his instincts, but at the same time, like take care of the basketball, because you can't have live ball turnovers in at the college level, and then be able to hold his own defensively. Given some of the things that Coach had said publicly about Furphy, I thought he gave him pretty good minutes,
Yeah.
and I think long term, I was able to see them practice in August in summer session. And I do think long term, if Furphy can take better care of the basketball, he's someone that could be really important here. I'll kind of connect the dots this way. I said right now, Junior County is more of an off-ball guard. I think Furphy has maybe more on-ball potential at this stage than even County does. So again, it goes into how those three guys, after Silas Demery and Solo Ball and Braylon Mullins are gone, how those three guys could fit together. And I think the progression of Furphy's on-ball ability is something that could be a really important part to that, because his feel for the game and vision and instincts, those are things that really can't be taught. And just getting him to adjust to the physicality, the pace, and then valuing the ball in each possession, that's just part of the transition. But I thought he gave him some pretty good minutes.
Yeah, as this UConn team starts off the season, I mean, they get thrown into things pretty quickly in just a couple of weeks with BYU. Then you could go down the list of the non-conference matchups, whether it's Kansas, Arizona, Texas, Florida. Is there a matchup you've kind of got keyed in on your calendar that you're looking forward to?
I'm gonna go to the BYU game. So I mean, but the reality is their non-conference schedule is ridiculous. So I think it's hard to circle just one. I think at MSG where they have the doubleheader there, and again
Yeah.
BYU's there, Florida's there as well. So that's going to be from like a scouting perspective, that's going to be a big draw. But I really do think it's hard to pinpoint just one game because the totality of their non-conference schedule is so extreme, which is why I thought it made so much sense to start with an exhibition game against Michigan State,
Yeah.
albeit in a way in which like they never had to leave. I thought it was very, very strategic the way they built those two exhibitions. You're playing two high major teams, you're building up to a program like Michigan State. You're never in Gamble, so you have that atmosphere of having to get in the bus. I don't know, maybe you
Yeah.
got in a hotel the night before, so you're simulating game day. But at the same time, you're never really going outside the immediate radius of Connecticut. So I think everything about what they did with the schedule was very deliberate, very strategic, and there's a lot of to look forward to. I'll tell you this from like a CBS perspective. In the heart of football season, it's the rare college basketball game that can attract a national sports
Yeah.
attention with everything else that's going on. And I think UConn is going to be able to do that, not just once or twice, but a number of times here in the next month or two.
Yeah, I'll wrap with this. Based on what you've seen from the exhibitions, based what you've learned on some other teams in the country, you think this top five ranking is a good spot for UConn heading into the season?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that there was very little doubt at that. I mean, they controlled that Michigan State game from start to finish. I think if they want, the final score, I didn't think was indicative of the separation between those two teams. I thought it was just indicative of the fact that they were exploring with different lineups down the stretch. So and especially as I said, with the fact that you're missing two of your better players.
Yeah.
There's so much depth. There's so much, I think, balance, and just the insulation for to not be derailed by an injury or two, I think is already something that's become apparent here just in the preseason.
Yeah. Well, Adam, I really appreciate you taking some time to come on and talk recruiting, talk the season with us. So I appreciate it, and thanks again.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.